Okay, so today's Gemara is Daf Chav Dalid, and we're holding on the very top, the first line. And the Gemara asks, "V'heicha manach lehu," and we had discussed the tefillin that after at night what one can do with their tefillin, and we discussed how even though we had a refutation of Shmuel's din that you're allowed to about putting it underneath one's head, underneath one's pillow, even if one's wife is with him. And the Gemara comes out that we paskin that the halacha is like Shmuel. The Gemara says, where should he put them? Amar of Yirmiyah, bein kar lekesa shaloi keneged roisha. He should put it between his head, the pillow, and the sheet. Okay, not opposite his head, meaning you should put it underneath the pillow, but not directly underneath his head, but next to his head. So the Gemara says, the Gemara says, you should put it in a hat or in a case, tachas marashosov, under his head, to mapik le morsha, to kova lebar. So the Gemara answers that even though it seems to be saying that you could put it under, you should put it underneath a kova tachas marashosov under in a hat or in a protective case, seems to imply the Tosos discussed over here, but seems to imply that it's that you're not allowed to that you're allowed to put it directly underneath your head. The Gemara answers demapikle the morsha to kova lebar. No, that in fact means that you could put it in this that when they have the bulge of the tefillin in the case sticking out from underneath the pillow. So the Gemara says, "Bar kapara tsar le bekilta." He would wrap it up in the kilta. Umapik le morsha and lebar. He would wrap it in the kilta. It was like the canopy that was over his bed. He would actually wrap it in there, and with the bulge sticking out. The Gemara says, Rav Shisha Bered Rav Idi, Rav Shisha son of Rav Idi, Manach Lahu Ashar Shiva. He put it on like on some sort of stand or some sort of stool, a parasudra levayo, and he put a sheet over it. Amar Rav Amnuna Bered Rav Yosef, Zim Nachada. One time, have a kamina kamed Rava. I was in front of Rava. Amar Li, and he told me, Zil, I see li tefillin. Go bring my tefillin. When I found them, I found them between the pillow and the mattress and the sheet. Not where his head was. I saw the indentation of his head was. It was next to that. And I understood that it was the tefillah the night before that he was with his wife. So why did he send me to get to tefillin? To show me the halacha l'mais that you're in fact allowed to put your tefillin like this, even when your wife is with him, clearly in a way that that would normally seem to imply a certain disrespect. But over here again, in order to protect the tefillin, one is allowed to do this. Okay, so the Gemara continues. Baimene Rav Yosef, brother of Nechunya, Rav Yehuda. Rav Yosef, the son of Nechunya, asked Rav Yehuda, Shnaim shisheni b'mita achas, two people who were sleeping in one bed. Mahu shezeh yachzer panav v'yikra krishma, and they're sleeping naked in one bed. As they did in those days, and the question is, could one turn his face to read Kriyishma and the other? So in that case, they'd both be facing away from each other. Amarle Hachiyam Shmuel is what Shmuel said. Afilu Ishta Ima, you can even do that if it's your wife with you. So Maskal Rav Yosef asked, Ishta v'lem yibaya acher. Are you saying your wife and no one else? Adrab, just the opposite. Ishti kagufa, your wife is like your own body. Achar lav kagufa, so therefore you are less prone to come to have thoughts that may be distracting from your Kriya Shema if you're with your wife than if you're with someone else. If you're with someone else, just the touching or the being in the bed together could create your mind to wander on inappropriate thoughts or other thoughts that would take away from the concentration of the Shema. So the Gemara says, Meisve, the first wide line. I'll ask you a question. Shnayim shishein b'mita achas. Two people who are in one bed. Zeh machzer panav v'kar. This one could turn his face. Zeh machzer panav v'kar. That's one brisa. Okay. V'tanya yechriti. Another brisa says, Hayashim b'mita. One who's sleeping in a bed. Ubanav u'bnei beis b'tzidei. And his children and his house and the people of his house are next to him. I will see what this means in a minute. Hareza liyikra kriyishma. He should not read Kriyishma. Ella imkain talis mafsekes benein. As long as he doesn't have a talis, some sort of cloth between him, he can't read Kriyishma. V'imhayu banav u'bnei beis katanim. If his children are with him, or the kids that are in the bed with him are katanim, mutter, then it would be mutter. Okay, so the Gemara says Bishlam Rav Yosef. It makes sense according to Rav Yosef, who says that a wife you would be able to lekasha habishta have acher. The two brises that seem to be a contradiction. The brisa that says that one can turn his face and read and one could turn their face, and he's talking about a husband and a wife. And this that it says that you have to have a sheep between you is talking about other people that are not your wife, that you're in a bed with. Okay, so that makes sense. So the Gemara says, El Shmuel Kasha, according to Shmuel, who says that you can always turn your face. How come this Brisa seems to say that you're not allowed to? That you need a sheet. Shmuel will tell you the Rav Yosef Minicha. Wait a second. Does Rav Yosef, does it make sense? V'hatanya, the Brisa said, Hayashim b'mita, ubanav ubnei b'tzei b'mita, lo yikra kriyishma, elam kein haysa talisam efsekes b'neim. Elamayas l'chal meimar, ishta the Rav Yosef Tanaihi. Now, should we accepted before that banav ubnei b'tzei means your children, your sons, ubnei b'tzei means children of the house. Now, usually, that's a reference to one's wife. Okay, so earlier he had learned that that's not a reference to his wife. Shmuel saying, what do you mean? That's talking about your wife. If it's talking about the wife, according to Shmuel, according to Rav Yosef, says Shmuel, it should be no problem. So it must be, according to Rav Yosef, it's a Tanai. Tanai here, it's a Machalikas Tanai, an argument between the Tanaim. So the Dinami Tanai here, according to me, it's also going to be a Machalikas Tanai. Okay, 2 dots. The Gemara continues. Amar Mar. We said before, Zeh machzer panav b'kar kriyishma, and the v'zeh machzer panav b'kar kriyishma. Says the Gemara, v'ika aguvais. There's still their buttocks that are going to be touching. The Gemara says, Messiah the Rafuna. This is a proof for Rafuna. Tamar Rafuna aguvais emeh misham erva. When it comes to buttocks, it's not exactly erva. Now erva is usually a reference to genitalia or to places we'll see in a minute. They're usually covered, but a butt, as we'll see, is not something that's going to bring on hirhurim rayim or lack of concentration in Shema. So the Gemara says, Lema Messiah Leila Rafuna. Let's say this is a proof for Rafuna, because it says, Isha Yesheves v'kaitzel chalsa aruma mepnei shechol lekasas paneh bekarka. A woman could separate her challah. You know that the din of challah is that a certain measurement of challah has to be taken off from the dough and to be given to the kohen. So a woman who is naked and she's sitting on the floor, she can actually separate challah and make the bracha, because she could close her legs together and she can have her face, meaning her genitalia, directly into the ground. Avaloiha ish, not a man, because he would still have his testicles and the member actually protruding. So this seems to be a proof that we're not concerned about the buttocks. So our answer is no. She was lying in a way that she was sitting on a soft ground or some sort of sand where it was actually around her buttocks, and therefore her buttocks was also covered. So this is not a conclusive proof that there's no buttocks, there's no erva when it comes to buttocks. Now the Gemara continues. Amar Mar, we said before, if it was the people of its children with him were katanim, then mutter. It's not a problem of coming to illicit thoughts. The Gemara says viad kama, until what age? Rav Chisda says tinokos b'ashalish shana v'yom echad. Tinokos, when it comes to girls, is 3 years and 1 day. The tinok, when it comes to boys, is 9 years and 1 day. Some say tinokos, when it comes to girls, it's 11 years old in 1 day, meaning into the 11th year. The tinok bin shnayim echad, and the boy actually has to be 12 1 day. And idi, both the boy and the girl, till they're showing signs of puberty in reference to breasts starting to sprout, to take form, and pubic hair starting to sprout. Amalei Rav Kahana Rav Kahana tells to Rav Ashi. Hasam Amar Rava, before, in the case we wanted to know about the tefillin and what you should do with them. In that case over there, Amar Rava said, Avagad the Tiyufti the Shmuel, even though we had a Tiyufta refutation in Shmuel's din, we had a Bryce that was unlike him, still we said Hilchas HaKavesei to Shmuel, in order to guard your tefillin. Hachamai, what about over here? In this case, in Shmuel, are we going to say that a wife would be different or not? So the Gemara says, Amar Le, Atu Kula B'chada Machta Machtaninu. Is everything woven together? What does that halacha have to do with this halacha? Where it wasn't taught the halacha, wasn't taught the halacha. Amalei Ramon their papa. Sa'ar yetz bebig daimahu. What about if a person has hair, pubic hair, sticking out? Now you can't see the erva, you can't see the genitalia themselves, but you can see the hair. So Karialea, he said that they would call that sa'ar. Okay, that's why he called on to him. It's just hair. It's not a problem. Okay. Now the Gemara talks a little bit about erva and this concept of that pose a problem with regard to Tefach be'isha erva. In general, a tefach, a space on the woman's body that's more than a hand's breadth, is considered a tefach, it's considered erva. So the Gemara says lamai in regards to what? To stare at it. What do you mean? That can't be. In the story of when the soldiers came after defeating Midian, they came to Moshe and they took in booty. They had taken this booty from Midian. This is after the near sins that they occurred with the daughters of Midian, and how they had come dancing and stuff. They dressed them up to seduce the Jewish people. So they took all kinds of jewelry there, and amongst the countings of the jewelry was earrings and nose rings, and it counts two things there that were references to a kind of jewelry that was like an internal jewelry that fathers used to put on their daughters then, which is this some sort of a gold that was actually like insert into the vaginal canal and was like sort of set up in a way that that it would be difficult or impossible. They needed a key to so no one could take their daughters' virginities. Okay, so but over there it says it counts the tachshit and the jewelry shebachutz, the jewelry of the outside, like earrings and bracelets, in tachshit and bifnim, with jewelry that was for like internal purposes, like I just described. Lomer lachot to tell us that kol hamistakel be'etzba katana shalisha, whoever stares at even the pinky finger of a woman, he'll mistakel b'makom as if he stared at the genitalia themselves. Okay, so it can't be that a tefach is what we're talking about, because even the pinky finger, you're not allowed to stare at to surach or levavchem. You shouldn't go after the desires of your heart. And surach or levavchem, and we said that this is going after physical and sexual desires. Okay, so the Gemara says Ella be'ishta, must be talking about its wife. Well, Kriyashma, that more than a tefach space that's usually covered is considered problematic. Amar of Chizda, shok be'isha erva. Okay, when it comes to a woman's thigh. Now, there's discussion whether a thigh means from the as we know a thigh to be, or does it mean from the knee to the ankle? Okay, but a shok be'isha is considered erva. Shenemar, like the verse says, gali shok ivri naharos. Okay, these are the psukim in Yeshaya that say reveal your thigh and pass rivers. V'ksiv, and the verse says after that talgel ervasecha v'gam tirech ervasecha, you revealed your erva. So you see, and your embarrassment was seen. So you see that these are reference to erva. Amar Shmuel kol be'isha erva, a woman's voice. Okay, this means singing. Is considered erva. Shenemar ki kailech arev u'marech naveh. Your voice is sweet and your sight is beautiful. Okay, so we see that there's some object to a woman's voice that men desire. A woman's hair is considered erva. Your hair is like a flock of sheep. This is from Song of Songs, so we see that a woman's hair is also considered erva. Also, big discussion. This has to do with obviously married woman's hair. A woman's hair is usually covered. Question is about nowadays when most women don't cover their hair, or the question also exists regarding a non-Jewish woman's hair, if there's going to be erva there as well. Okay, the Gemara continues. Amar Rav Chanina, Ani Reisi, as Rebbe, I saw Rebbe Shetola Tfilav, that he hung his tefillin, and he had it on a peg, and he put them on a peg, and he hung them up. Okay, Meisvei. Says the Gemara, I have a question. Rav Raisa says, Atoila tefillah, one who hangs his tefillin, Yitlu lechayav, he's hanging his life. Dorshi chamuris amru. The chamuris were those who darshan from lashon of knots. They extrapolated drushes from the difficult psukim. That your life will be hanging opposite from you. Zahatoila tefillah, who hangs his tefillin. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a question. Like Kasha. However, if you hang it on a peg, you actually put the knot of the tefillin there, and and it hangs down, and the box is hanging, that's bad. Box on top, and just the straps hanging, that's okay. If you buy same relation or two relation of katzitza, and in fact, doesn't matter which one you do, both are usher. He actually had it in a bag. He had the bag hanging up. Says the Gemara, what was his testimony about Rebbe? What Rebbe did? So the Gemara says, that you actually need to put it in like a case, like when you say Torah, you can't even put on a peg, even if it's in a case. Kamash Mallah, that you're allowed to have it in its holder, in his bag, and then hang the bag. Okay? Rav Chanina Niri sees Rebbe. I saw Rebbe Shegihek. Okay, we're going to go through what all these mean in a minute. Shegihek means he burped. Fihek means he yawned. V'nisatish means he sneezed. Verok, and he spit. Umamashbish big day, and he wiped off lice that were trying to bite him from on his skin or on his hair. He used his cloth to wipe them off. Avaloya misat means if his this is all in the middle of davening Shemona Esrei. I'm sorry. If his talis fell down off of him, he wouldn't pick it up to wrap it around because he considered that to be a hefsek in the middle of his davening. Okay, and we said when he was mefahek, so when he yawned, he put his hand on his center, on his chin, and he to cover. The Gemara says Meisve. I'll ask you a question from a Brachos. It says, Hamashmiya kolim b'tfilasei. One who davens Shemona Esrei in a loud voice. He's considered to be from the people with a little bit of faith because he's showing that Hashem doesn't feel his have to say aloud. I'm sorry, Mikatani Amona, because he needs to be his tefillah to be heard. Hamagbiya kol tefillah. If he raises it out loud, if he yells his tefillah, Harizim Nevi'ah and Sheker is like the false prophets who used to scream their prayers. Migahek mefahek, Harizim migasei ruach. It's considered haughty. Okay, Hamisatish b'tfilah, one who sneezes, simin ra'ala. It's a bad sign. It's a bad omen for his tefillah. It's recognizable that he's a stinky one, that he's a stinking one. Okay, and haroik b'tfilah, one who spits, ki l'roik b'fnei hamelech, for the king. So we have a few questions over here. We see that Rebbe did all these things, or most of these things. So bishlam migayek umefahek lekasha kanla nusa kanla ritzayne. When it comes to yawning and burping, the kanla anoisa kanla ritzayne, when he had to, that's okay. But if he did it by will, he just like yawn, that's a sign of haughtiness that you're showing that you're bored with davening. Okay? Is it good to sneeze or is it bad to sneeze? So Gemara says it's not a question. Sneezing with your nose is an totally uncontrollable thing, and you could sneeze. And that's okay, and that's not a bad siman. But sneezing from below or flatulence, that passing gas, that is in fact a bad siman, and that's why it makes sense that you'll be like you're a stinky one because you have like a smell coming from you. Some of the commentaries explain because it's like we said before that when one flatulates, there's a rude sound that causes attention drawn to him and embarrasses him with the bad smell. So it's a bad sign. Damer of Zera said, Hamilsa Iblali be Rav Amnuna. Okay, this thing I heard from Rav Amnuna, the Tequila Liki Kulai Talmudai, and it was equal to me like all of my learning. It was worth all of my learning. What was that? Hamis Atish, but tefillah, one who sneezes in his tefillah. Simin Yafala, it's a good sign. Why? Because just as they give you a good wind below, meaning that you feel good after one sneezes, it's like a release. That they're giving you a release above. Okay? So the Gemara says, Kasha. Over here we see it's like you're spitting in front of a king. And we see the Rebbe used to spit in the middle of his tefillah, so it couldn't be that bad. So the Gemara says, Kasha. Why? Not a question. Efshir could Rabbi Yehuda. It's like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, Hayayim betfila, one who's standing and davening and his davening right, and it materialized saliva, spittle in his mouth, and now he has to spit. Avli Talisai, he should quickly wipe it up into his talis, into the talis he's wearing. If talis, no, if it's a nice talis. Avli after like we said before, his turban. The two ends were in front of him. He could take it and spit into it. So Ravina Habakoya heard Rav Ashi, he was before Rav Ashi, he was behind Rav Ashi, and he saw in his Damali Roik, and he had spit come to him. Padki Lacher, he threw it behind him. Some say that he spit into his hand and then threw it behind him, or he turned around and spit. But that we said Mavliya about Afarak, you're supposed to actually sort of your turban. Datai means I need a sadas, I'm a sensitive person, and I'd be disgusted by that, so I would hold it in, and then I'm not going to be able to daven. It's going to be hard for me to daven, so I'm allowed to spit. And that's the halacha, that one's allowed to spit if it's going to bother them, okay? And preferably to behind you or the left side, but even if you can, you can bring it to the right side or in front of you, okay? One who has to hear, other people could hear, it means that he doesn't really believe that Hashem is listening. This is only said if he could have kavanah, if he could have proper intentions and concentration, if he says it quietly. So distracted in his mind, mutter he could say it out loud. That's only if he's davening b'yechidus. If he's davening with the congregation, he's actually going to come bother other people, and it would be forbidden for him to do so. Tani Abba learned, Rebbe Abba, he was avoiding Rabbi Yehuda. You know that Rabbi Abba wanted to go make Aliyah, to move to Israel, or to go to Israel at least to learn, and Rabbi Yehuda forbid him. So why? Rabbi Yehuda said, whoever goes up from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, he actually transgresses a mitzvah aseh. Shneimar, the verse says, Bavelah Yuvao, you're going to come to Bavel, Vashama you, there you should be, until I redeem you. So he actually learned from here that you're not supposed to leave Bavel. We're not supposed to leave the exile and come back to Israel. So Rabbi Abba wanted to go, and he was avoiding his Rabbi Yehuda because he didn't want to tell him. So Amar, he said, Ezel Eshma Minemi Elsa, Mi Beis Vada, but he goes, I'll go listen in the corridor, I'll go outside the Beis Mini Beis Medrash, and I'll listen to what he says. V'hadar Epic Vazel, and then I'll leave and I'll go. So Ashkechal Tani made Rabbi Yehuda. He heard a Tana who was teaching, who was saying different prices in front of Rabbi Yehuda, and he heard him say the following: one's in the middle of davening, v'nis atesh, okay, and he needs to pass gas. Mamtin, he should wait okay, he should wait until he finishes passing gas and until the smell passes, and then he can continue davening. It can happen. Some say if he's in the middle of davening. Ubikesh lezatesh, and he wants to pass gas. Marchak lachar dalat amas, he should move back 4 amas from misatesh and then pass gas. Umamti should wait ruach until the smell passes. V'chayzer umispal, he goes back to the place where he was and he davens. And he says as follows: Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Sartanu, you created in us nekavim, chalulu, the chalul, different kinds of holes and crevices. Golav yadu lefenecha, it's known before you. The charpa seinu kilasinu b'chayenu, our disgrace and embarrassment in your lives, and our end is Rima V'Ta'ela, is just to be a maggot and to the worms. That's where we get eaten by. And he says this, and he goes back to the place where he was up to in the Tefillah. Amarle, he told his student, if I did not come, that would have been enough. Okay? Tanarabanan, we learned, a person sleeping in his talis. Okay, in a sort of cloak. It's cold, it's so cold that he can't take his head out from it. So what should he do? He has to say Kriyishma now. He should wrap up the cloak or the talis around his neck, okay, so that he it doesn't have his eyes seeing his erva, his genitalia, like we said, his closed up place is not sneas. Okay? Vikar Kriyishma. Some say that you should wrap it up alibai on his chest so that his heart doesn't see it. The Tanakama, the Gemara asks, according to the Tanakama, who says just around his neck, Hare libai rayas erva, his heart is going to be seeing his erva. Kasarva libai erva mutter. Rafuna, he holds it's not a problem. Rafuna, Rav Yochanan, Hayamahalech, if someone's going in a dirty alleyway, Meniach Yadei al Piv. If Vikar Kriyishma, he has to say Kriyishma, he should take his hand and put it over his mouth and say Kriyishma, as if to sort of protect the words and to create less disrespect. Rav Chizda says, Halekim, by God, you said this in the name of Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan himself said it with his own mouth to me. Let's say, I would not listen to him. Okay, I don't believe it. Some say, Amar Rabbi Shmuel Levi, it's one who's going in Boaz and Chenufas, and Rav Chizda said about that, I wouldn't listen. The Gemara says, "Me Amar Rav Huna Hachi." Do Rav Huna really say this? That you can put your hand over your mouth? Rav Huna says, a Torah scholar, it's forbidden. It's also for him to stand in a place that's dirty at all. Why? The nature of a Talmud Chacham is he's constantly reviewing his learning, like we had earlier in the Masechta Rashi. So therefore, it's Torah. So therefore, if he's in a dirty place, he's necessarily thinking about Torah, and that's bad. So you see, he doesn't even allow thinking about Torah. So he's not going to let you put your hand over your mouth just to say the words. So the Gemara says, like Kasha, it's different if one's standing around or if one's passing. And the Gemara says, and the understanding of this is that the where we learn this whole concept from is your your encampment should be holy, right? And if you're just passing through, it's not considered your encampment until you physically stop. Okay, so the Gemara says. Me Amar Rav Yochanan, how could Rav Yochanan say that? Amar Rabba Rachana, Amar Rav Yochanan, B'kol Malkaim, Mutter Lehar B'Javar Torah, in every place you're allowed to think about Torah, Chutz Beis HaMerach, Chutz Beis HaKizeh, except for a bathhouse and for Beis HaKizeh, a bathroom. So you see, he doesn't allow you. Maybe you could say it's a bathroom where you're walking through. Says the Gemara, "Ein that sova Rav Yavo havaka azl basrid Rav Yochanan." Rav Yavo was walking behind Rav Yochanan. Havaka kari kriyishma. He was reading kriyishma. He made mut b'vois hamichinufas when they came to a dirty alleyway. Ishtik, and he was quiet. And after he had finished walking through, Rav Yochanan, he told Rav Yochanan, "Lehechana hader, where do I go up to? Where do I go back to in Shema?" He told him, "Im shehi sakadei ligmar skula." If there was enough time in your pause while you were in the voice of Nufos, that you could have said the whole thing, and then you go back to the beginning. So you see that he held that you have to stop. The Gemara says no. Hachi kamarle lididi. According to me, I hold lididi. I hold lisvirli. I don't hold this whole thing. I hold that you're allowed to just continue saying and put your hand over your mouth. But lididcha, according to you, the savrit, the lididach, the svir lachim that you have to hold, that you have to stop. Then this is the halacha according for you. Okay, but I don't hold that you have to stop at all. Tanya consider Rav Huna. Tanya consider Rav Chizr. We have a brisa for that backs up each one of these opinions. Tanya said Rav Huna mahalach b'vois hamichinufos, so goes in a dirty alleyway. Miniach yodav al piv, he puts his hand over his mouth for kara krishma, and that's a proof for Rav Huna. Okay, Tanya consider Rav Chizda mahalach b'vois hamichinufos lo yikra krishma. Shouldn't read it all. Not only that, shemaya koira uba paisik lo pasak. So a paisik, he has to actually stop reading. When I ask loy paisik ma, loy pasak ma. If he didn't stop reading, what's the halacha? Amar Mashai bar Braid of Shmuel Levi, the grandson of Shmuel Levi. Allah Kasavamer. The verse says, "V'gam ani nasati lahem." I also gave them chukim le'tayvim, ordinance that that are not good, mishpatim le'ichvihem, and they don't live by my principles, by my justices. Ravasi Amar Hayyimosh Chayalven b'Chevle Ashav is actually a verse in Yeshaya where he says, "Woe to those who pull the sin with the strings of nothingness, and but at the end their sin is like the thick ropes of the agala." Okay, so again a very negative pasuk that you're doing a sin. The word of Hashem is disgraced, and the vimpasa maschar, if he does stop, what's the reward? The verse says, you will actually live a long life. Okay, so tomorrow we're up to Daf Chaf Hey.